Did you know that you can order French flour? American wheat is modified with 50% more gluten than what our body's enzymes can handle. That's why there's a lot of gluten intolerance. And
yes, it is true that you can buy French flour online. However, the rest of that video is not true. So there are different types of wheats that are grown in both the US and in Europe. In US, the most predominant strains are going to be hard wheat strains, and in Europe, you're getting more soft wheat and durum wheat grown there. However, you can buy soft wheats, hard wheats in both the US and in Europe, and Europe imports some wheat from the US as well. Now, these different types of wheats will have different gluten contents, and different wheats are better for different applications. So for example, bread flour like this one is going to have some of the highest amounts of gluten, from around 12 to 14%, and it's obviously good for breads and yeast products. All-purpose flour typically has around 8 to 12% gluten, and this type of flour can be good for things like pastries, pie crust, cookies, things like that. Your soft flour, or sometimes called cake flour, is going to have some of the lowest amounts of gluten, so 7 to 9% gluten, and this type of flour is good for obviously things like cakes, muffins, things like that. So depending on what type of flour you're buying at the store and what application you're using it for, it will have a different level of gluten, and you can find these different types of flours, like I said, in both the US and in Europe. Now, as far as an actual gluten intolerance, actually the prevalence of celiac disease is actually higher in Europe than it is in the US, and it's not caused by the different types of wheat. If you have celiac disease, you cannot be eating any of these types of wheat because they all contain some level of gluten. Now, gluten sensitivity is a little less understood, but it could be possible that some types of flours with a lower gluten level, or types of ways that you bake different breads that result in a lower level of gluten in the finished product, could be okay for somebody that has a gluten sensitivity. Again, that's not very well understood, but that could be the case depending on what type of flour is being used, how the bread is being baked, and the end product gluten content. Now, again, this has nothing to do with it being French flour versus US flour. It's just the type of flour that's being used. If you want to buy a soft wheat flour that originates from France, go ahead and do that. You can buy that online. You can also buy soft wheat flours that originate from the US as well.